So the ego is going to insist there's something out there and it's weak and something's happening to you. And it really is a matter of taking responsibility for the mind and taking back every projection and saying no to it. There's no place else to go. And until you see that you are choosing it, he gives you the miracle to choose and the power to choose to see differently. That is the gift. That you have all the power to see differently. That's where it has to begin. Until you're willing to see that you've chosen all of it. But the ego is going to protect that. It's going to do everything it can to protect from seeing that there's only one and that all the power rests with you to decide not to do this. There just isn't another way than to be willing to see it. When the ego says, I don't want to see it, we have to learn to say, I am going to see it. Because it's going to insist, it's going to try and have its way. Well, we have to accept our power not to accept that. Jesus can only point. We can rely on his strength. Yes, because he knows we've played weak. But the only way through this is to be determined to see the truth. And to be willing, really, I can't find another way, and to do whatever it takes to see it. When beings say it's like 100% in for God and the kingdom, that is what it is. There isn't another way, because everything the ego is doing is to deny that. Every single move it makes. And to have this voice, this incredible voice of A Course in Miracles, show us every place. You can have as many spiritual awakening experiences that can be totally beautiful and see wholeness and talk about wholeness. But if you want what Jesus offers in A Course in Miracles, if that is the call of your heart, and you deserve to know the truth, but it will take the courage, determination, tenacity, trust. Because the faith that you have is in yourself. Faith always points back to you and what you are. And you will have, there's no other way about it. You can ask anyone that's walked the fire. You have to be willing to say no to the beast. Kirsten said it. I had it. Do you know how many times I've had to say no to the ego? Thousands. And every time you follow, you're saying no to the ego. You're accepting divine power. So sometimes the only way through it is, next week's going to be true use of denial, is to say, I do not accept this in my mind. We've talked about decisiveness. I'm going to be decisive. And you cannot know ahead of time. There simply is no way, because of the way it's structured. You can't know what it's going to be like. You can't. It's designed, the great deception is to forget what this communion is. So it will take tenacity and trust and commitment to yourself. There's no one to be committed to. It's commitment. If you can't do anything else, commit to the miracle right now. It is, that's how it plays. It's the game we decided to play, that something's out there and God's going to get me and all of this. So if there's nothing else, get the miracle. That's all we can do. Just, I'm getting the miracle. I'm going to see this differently. And contemplate infinite light. Because the contemplation of infinite light, it is revelatory. Miracles are, but where you just start to see it's not what you think it is. That's why lesson 44, lesson 189. Jesus says it can be startling, infinite, because he knows we're so used to packing ourselves into a body. It's startling to see, oh, there's something here that's infinite. Just, you can do it, Mary. You're going to be determined to see.
I've gotten this far.
Yes, with a lot of determination. It takes a lot of determination and trust to do the level of looking that it takes. I'm just saying. I would be happy for it to be less. And if, by goodness, if you choose the power in your mind first, because we do have the power to go all the way with, one decision. But for whatever reason, that consciousness is addicted to giving itself hell. It's extraordinary, really. There is no other. There isn't an other to do something to someone. There's no God doing something to someone or something. There's consciousness that wanted to play a game of other. Consciousness wants to play the game of other without there being an other. So it dreams of someone to project on. So again, if you can't see, if you're not willing to see that there's no one out there, although you're only going to be ridiculous happy when you see it, then just get your miracles. and commit to following, even when you don't know what it's going to go. You don't know anyway. It's so hilarious. We think we know where we're going and what we're doing. That's ridiculous anyway. It's never like you've outpictured it, ever. Who's ever had something show up exactly like they outpictured it? Like you say, Mary, TNT, trust and tenacity. It is grabbing. You got to grab that brass ring. Not you, but we all have to do it. If you want to know the truth of your identity, you've got to be willing to do everything he asks so you can see where you're denying what you're already given. And it does take trust. It does. It takes trust. That's why the mighties are so important. But in the play of consciousness, the ego is going to try and divide. Jesus is going to give you the mighties that are going to get you there. And then the ego is going to find a way to not have you go all the way with them. It's going to want to jettison them. It's going to want, David talks, the Hofmeister talks about it. And you start seeing it over and over. He hands you a bunch of mighties with a ticket to heaven. Here's how to get there, the ticket to heaven, but we don't see how much we like hell. That's the only thing that's ever happening, is liking hell and not wanting to see how much we like it. That's fine. As soon as we decide it's not such a great thing, then we say, okay, I'm not liking that anymore. But I can see a part of the mind has to, this is an advanced yogi talk, by the way. It's really, the mind has to get to the point where it says, whatever's been happening in my life before this has not worked. It has not brought me happiness. If I'm honest, it takes radical self-honesty. And then that's where we need Jesus too, because we don't see where we're not being honest. And Jesus is saying, you're going to have to trust your brother. And the ego does not want to do that. The whole thought to me of turning anything over to anybody else to make a decision, oh my God, that was horrible. But now I see it. If it's given by him, it is the golden ticket out. If you're willing to get the miracles, if you're willing to commit yourself to get every miracle you can get, I'm getting it. I'm changing my mind. I am not tolerating. I will not tolerate this in my mind. It's so helpful. You'll see it. Your power will come in. And you just start to see the thousands of ways the play is to give yourself hell. And you don't deserve it. But it does boil down to I'm going to taking responsibility for our mind, for watching the mind and saying no to the rat holes of consciousness. I will not dive down that rat hole, no. And it takes a lot of consistency. But I can't say that. I mean, the number of times you'll start to see it. You can see the play in consciousness. You'll get really close to some kind of epiphany. Not you, but the play does. Man, it's like the ego has its sniffer out and it's going to lay out a trip around the world for free for you so you won't keep looking. Yeah, it'll come up with some juicy tidbit that's so gorgeous, or some spiritual retreat, and it will not be guidance. And as I've said before, when I could see the power that came in my mind, at the point where I said, I don't care if I'm paid, $1,000 for non-refundable ticket on a plane. If I find out that is not in guidance, I'm walking away. That's how definitive and decisive we need to be with this beast. And it like set me free. Because the ego's tricky, it'll do this money game. Like, well, I've already invested my money in that, and so I've got to do it, or Aunt Martha's waiting for me. It's like, I love you, Aunt Martha, but you will be tested by that too. I know it happened to me for sure. The story with my mom where I had to say no to something. But it really is a decision. What do I want? And really, it's like you said, Mary, it's the banks to the river and trusting. Trusting your brother, that he's there to help you get through. If you accept the mighties you're given and you really pay attention, Jesus, are these the mighties I'm to go all the way with? Will this take me to the promised land? And then I could see it. I had to nail my feet to the floor when I wanted to do anything but what was being asked. But I'd ask Jesus, is this most helpful to heal my mind? But all you'll find in that is divine power. Fear will be unknown to you. I mean, it's an idea anyway, but it won't, your life will no longer be ruled by fear. You'll see you don't even know what fear is. And it's like, what is that? But you'll see little mind eddies, these little thought circles. Then you just say, okay, I'm generating that. So this is a great question, Mary. But if you're determined to see it, Jesus will show it to you. And you don't have to accept less than seeing that there's nothing out there. He's saying it's a privilege, actually. See, because it's the direct path to happiness. It's the direct path to seeing that this need not be by direct experience. I chose it. I accept that I chose it, but I'm not choosing the rest of it anymore. And it goes right into happiness. As soon as you see it, you start seeing it, you just get happy because oh, I got the power to choose. I don't have to experience fear. I don't have to experience pain. It's like I can see pain was like a given. So many spiritual teachers go, well, you got to have pain. You can wake up and you won't suffer, but you're going to have pain. Well, talk to Jesus. It may appear, but you know what the remedy is for it. Thank you, Jesus. I'm like going to be the cheering squad for anybody who wants to go for it. Your mind will get to the point where you won't understand not going for it. It just won't build it won't compute. It won't compute that that's your only function. It's like, well, why wouldn't you follow? You can't figure that out. It's like, it's nonsensical. So in a way, in the reflections of the world, it's like, well, you're so heartless, but you're not heartless. You're full of heart. You're full of communion because you see, it's like you're uncompromising for divinity. And then the love shines from the inside out, it just, everyone deserves this. I mean, to deserve to see the power they have to change their mind about the world. Amen.